You heard it here. I have officially achieved success out on the Sea of Thieves after just 2 months. I hear you asking how, and honestly, there's not much to say other than stay tuned, as this is a tale you will not want to miss. I'm Captain Daddy, and to all of you wonderful pirates out there, be sure to let me know if you want more of these types of tales. I awoke from the tavern this day with a purpose, and that purpose was to steal a chest of legends. If you heard my previous tale about spending 100 days as a merchant, you will know that this is not my first rodeo. Upon leaving, I looked up to the sky and saw a bright glowing skull signalling a fort of fortune in the distance, and I knew I had to get moving fast. I raided the island's barrels for good food and plenty of blunderbombs before boarding the Red Beard and seeing on the map a reaper parked over at Hidden Spring Keep. This would be my destination, and without wasting any more time, I raised the anchor and sailed through the storm in hopes of getting close to my target. Once I got closer, I could see I was dealing with a sloop, and I honestly had a good feeling about this one, but no one could have prepared me for what was about to transpire. I parked my ship behind a rock and swam over to the island. However, just before I reached their ship, the fort had been opened, and I had to act quickly. So I grabbed onto the ladders of their vessel, waiting to hear if they were on board. My ears sadly seemed to fail me, as I was swiftly blundered in the back and sent off to the Ferry of the Damned. I got back to my ship and dropped the sails. I began heading straight towards them in hopes to stop them getting away with the treasure, and upon arrival, I sailed up slowly behind them, attempting to fire as many cannons at them as I could, whilst noticing a rowboat that would become apparent later on. These guys, however, were a duo, and whilst one was sniping at me, the other would turn their ship and begin blowing holes in my port side. I was outgunned and outmanned, however I was not going to let this stop me achieving what I wanted. They knocked down my mast, and I knew I was a sitting duck on my ship, so I lunged off towards them, and it appeared that they too had sunk. And so began the race back to the fort. I was sailing against the wind, but I was not too far away. However, I knew I had to get out my good luck charm, and Mikey joined me to help me take on these pirates, as we tried to claim the chest of legends as our own. The sort of luck he brought though came in a very different kind than I had anticipated. I was first back on the island. However, after looking through the vault, I had noticed that all of the good loot had been taken, and looking around, much of it was scattered about the place. I dug up places, finding nothing, and searched everywhere I could, but as all hope seemed lost, they had returned. I manned one of the fort's cannons and blasted one important hole into their starboard side before one of them had appeared behind me. We had a true pirate battle, shooting, slashing, everything you could want. However, despite my best efforts, they had bested me once again as the Red Beard sank, but their ship too had sank in the process. Before I made it to the Ferry of the Damned, however, one of the pirates told me to meet them back on the fort with a Reaper's Emissary flag raised. A strange request, of course. However, I was willing to do so and hear what they had to say, so I did exactly that, raising a flag and heading straight back to the fort, seeing them do exactly the same. Also, despite how I made this sound, these guys were much better than I, and I knew much more fighting would result in many more defeats, so talking could only benefit me. Arriving back at the island, we exchanged GGs as we both talked of how fun it was. However, I had one dying question. What happened to the chest of legends? His response hurt me though, as I learnt that the previous rowboat, which I spotted before, was used during our final face-off by the other member of his crew to take the most valuable loot to an outpost and sell it all, including the one chest I wanted. They proceeded to barter more, however, saying that we should alliance up and I can take the rest of the loot, which should take me to Emissary level 5. I won't lie and say I wasn't skeptical, but for now, this deal could only end in me with nothing, which I already had, or some extra treasure, so I could not lose. Although this did feel like the booby prize, I knew there were many more of those chests for me to collect. However, much more of this tale is still yet to come, once we had loaded all of the treasure up and my level 5 emissary flag had been reached. We sailed off together, heading towards the Reaper's hideout to go and sell, all the while laughing and talking and enjoying the company of each other. I had never met another pirate like these, and we were now nearing the hideout where our new friendship would be put to the test. We managed to get everything off my ship, and as I was running back and forth selling everything I could, another sloop rolled into the party, and after firing a cannon, we knew that they were not friendly. My friend beckoned me to continue selling the treasure as he would sail off and distract them in the hopes that I could join him soon. However, his plan was foiled as he sailed away and one of the enemies had made it on land. I had to fight them off, being wary to keep an eye on my treasure, making sure none of it got sold, before finally finishing him off with the sharp edge of my blade. I continued to sell more treasure as I could hear more fighting in the distance, and multiple times they tried killing me to steal the goods. However, after my training with my friends, I was now ready, taking them all on, killing them left and right, whilst noticing one sneaky fellow attempting to hide in my crow's nest. We forced him down, and after he had stolen some of my coconuts,
man, you have very nice coconuts.
I got the finishing blow on him, before turning to fire my cannons upon their vessel. We fired a barrage at them as they were unable to do anything, and after finishing one more with a lengthy sword duel, they had finally sunk, and the alliance was stronger than ever. But this, my friends, is still not the end of my tale. However, before any more action could take place, I sold the remaining items before my new friends decided to show me something. The floor gave way as the center platform started to descend, and after a long while of traveling down, we had finally reached the Reaper's lair. This place was immense in both size and looks, and I could honestly not believe what they had down here, but for these two pirates to bring me down here was more than I deserved. This was sadly short-lived, as we soon heard cannon fire up top, so we raced back up to our ships and saw that the sloop had returned. Another fight began, and now I had no treasure to lose, so I sprung to action, blasting the first with my flintlock. And stabbing the other with my cutlass, defeating both of them solo, which even my friends were impressed with. Their ship was still here, however, and they were soon back, so we set sail after them, and the seas showed that they were not happy with them, as the Kraken took hold of their vessel. We wasted no time springing to action, firing more and more cannons, and even knocking down their mast, until eventually they had met their end, and once and for all sunk to the bottom of the ocean. After such an amazing adventure, it was time to say farewell, but before this they wanted a jewel each, and after all we had been through together, how could I say no? So our first battle began, and with a quick shot and slash, my friend was down, and it was up to the second to take me on now. Once again, however, I narrowly avoided death as I lunged into them, taking them down. They did ask for a sword battle also, but we won't talk about how that went. After all of this, we finally had to sail our separate ways, and I was honoured to have met these two amazing pirates.
We sons and daughters, we set forth for no king
I can hear you all now asking, how had I completed the Sea of Thieves when I couldn't even steal a chest of legends? Well, that would be, I had finally realised what it meant to be amongst the seas, knowing that out there is true adventure, stories to be told, but most importantly, friendship. And it was that I had achieved today. Despite not getting the chest, I wouldn't have it go any other way. And should you see me on the seas, be sure to say hi. You can even pop into my Discord where we meet up and play together there. Or if you want to see more tales like this, be sure to follow me on Twitch. But if what you're after is more stories, then feel free to watch this one on screen now, of when I spent 100 days as a merchant inside the Sea of Thieves. I've been Captain Daddy, and until next time, arrgh!